Alright, let's talk money. As some of you might know, I'm a data scientist. That means I'm practically drowning in money, and companies basically just want to give me all their money, and it is I who has to say no because, well, I don't have space to keep it. Just kidding. Actually, the reason I showed you this $1 bill is because I'm actually pretty broke. But stick around if you really want to know how much you can earn if you come to US for your higher education. Let's begin. Welcome back, guys, to another video, and if you're new to the channel, my name is Anmol, and today we're going to be talking about money. Now, before we even begin, I just want to give you a quick disclaimer. The research that is done by me is based on Glassdoor, PayScale, and a couple of other websites, and of course the usual college gossip. So after getting your education in the US, there are basically four main factors that are going to determine your salary, and I'm going to list all of them out in descending order. The first factor that's really going to affect your compensation is basically the field that you're in. Right now, it is a trend of software developers, so they make the most, but there's one field which makes even more than them. If you want to take a guess, comment down below. Well, for those who are still curious, it is the medical field. I'm not even going to talk about their salaries because, hey, I don't know how much money they're basically printing. But it starts with software developers, they make the most amount of money, and followed by data scientists, project managers, mechanical guys, and then electrical and electronics people, so on and so forth. So your field is going to be one of the most important factors that's going to contribute in your salary. And it makes sense too, right? Because it is basically the supply and demand. There's a lot of supply and there's a lot of demand. The demand is because a lot of new startups are popping up in this area and in this arena, and a lot of tech companies are growing at a huge scale. So basically there's a whole lot of demand, and plus then there's a whole lot of supply because more and more Indian students and especially international students are getting into tech and they're doing a decent job. So it's basically a supply and demand. So yes, they command the best salaries. The second most important factor is going to be your experience. Now, it's not just any experience, it has to be the right kind of experience. Let me just rephrase it. It has to be the exact same experience. If you're doing X job back at home in X field, and if you are able to get into the same field, that's going to affect your compensation. Not if you had a Y job in X field and now you're trying to get in the same field but in a different capacity. That experience does not really count. Actually, some of my friends have even gone on to say that it is affected negatively once they try to shift into that field. So yes, the second most important factor is the right kind of experience, and that plays a huge role. The third factor that we are going to be talking about is brand value. Now, if you're in India and you have heard of IIT, which I know everyone has, it's basically a brand value. Trust me, even your maid at home has heard that you went to IIT. So brand value in India is everything. A lot of times you might just even get a job based on your brand value. Well, I would be lying if I said that's not the case in the US. But it's not completely the case. Yes, brand value does matter, but not even half as much as it matters in India. If you went to a half decent college but you're really, really good at your skill, trust me, you will be at the same level and you will get same opportunities as everyone else in terms of making money. So that's not really going to really hinder your compensation. But yes, to be honest, look at it from a company perspective, are they going to pay the same amount of money to a guy who they picked up from MIT versus maybe from somebody from CMU or USC? No, it doesn't work that way. Brand value does play into account, but it's really up to you how you negotiate it. So it's not as important as it is in India, but yes, it's definitely important. The fourth and the most important factor is going to be your location. Location. So the entire US can be divided into three parts: the East Coast, the West Coast, and the Central. Now, West Coast is where you have the Google, the Facebook, the big tech companies, the Twitter, the Tinders. And on the East Coast is what you have fintech, the banks, where the financial district lies. And now that's where a lot of students who are in quants end up going to, or a lot of people who want to get into consulting end up going to, because that's more like mergers and acquisitions. So a lot of money in the East is made out of banks and financial systems, whereas in the West it is made out of tech. Now comes the Central US. This is an interesting part. This is where most of the automobile engineers, electrical engineers, electronical engineers land up, and that has a lot of opportunity because that's where the bigger companies like Intel, Nvidia have a lot of manufacturing units. So yes, it makes sense that way. Location also impacts in terms of taxation. Now, depending on the state that you're in, that's how much tax gets deducted. Now, you might think that it's not going to be a huge role and companies kind of balance it out. You're correct to some extent, but if you look at the overall compensation, it really gets affected by the place that you end up staying. For in California, the taxes are super high. They can be anywhere between 20 to 30% depending on your income bracket. Whereas if you're in the middle of Texas, they might be just 10, 15, or even less than 20%. So it's basically where you are that's going to determine how much tax you get and inherently your overall compensation. Now, for all the geniuses out there, let me ask you a mathematical question. Imagine if somebody is on the West Coast and they're making 120K, but they end up paying 26% tax, and let's say someone is on the center of US and maybe in Texas earning around 80K but paying 15% tax. Who made more money? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now, before I leave you guys with an actual figure and get some hate comments that I didn't say an actual amount, here's the thing. The minimum that I've heard for a student who graduated from US and was in the STEM degree with no experience was 60K. Now, can anyone guess how much was the maximum out of field? Let me know in the comment section below. So drum roll. The maximum that I've heard was for 145K, a new grad right out of college, and he was working for Salesforce. As always, if you guys liked the video and thought it added a little bit of value into your decision making process in coming to the US, do not forget to smash that like button and do subscribe. I kind of try and make videos every week. Alright, till next time, peace!